Is it ever okay to get a far-right conspiracy theory, partly sourced from neo-Nazi websites, targeting lots of journalists and media organisations on the left, and then just splash it in a national newspaper? No, obviously not. Under any circumstances, do not do this. And yet this is exactly what happened exactly a year ago. Tom Newton Dunn, a journalist at the Sun newspaper,
I don't talk with the Sun.
He printed a far-right conspiracy theory, let's have a little shufty, shall we, entitled Hijacked Labour, Ex-British intelligence officers say Jeremy Corbyn is at the centre of a hard-left network. It goes on to say it's an extraordinary network. And this group of ex-British spooks had uncovered this hard-left extremist network at the very epicentre of the Labour Party. Ooh, very frightening, chilling stuff. And it said, this is an extreme network who are now very close to running the country, and we want everyone to know this. That's one of the SAS former officers they've thrown in, quoted. Corbyn, it said, was at the centre of a spider's web of extensive contacts, which spanned Marxist intellectuals to militant groups and illegal terror organisations. Now, handily, it had this little link, which allowed you to look at this sprawling map linking together disparate organisations and individuals, showing how they were connected. Now, I happen to be one of them. So did some of my own friends, Elie Hagen, Ash Sarkar, and other writers, and organisations and media organisations like Open Democracy. Now, the fact that this far-right conspiracy theory was printed at all, linking together the left as though we're this vast, coordinated Illuminati. I mean, we generally struggle to even agree which pub to go to, let alone having the organisational ability to have this international network of individuals pulling strings in devious and elaborate ways. But park that one. As the journalist Daniel Trilling pointed out at the time, this conspiracy theory was sourced from what I would say was very subtly named websites like Aryan Unity. That's a neo-Nazi organisation, as you'd expect from the words Aryan Unity. And the Millennium Report, which is a lovely little outfit, publishing articles such as The Jewish Hand in the World Wars. So, as you'd expect, a lot of people at the time were pretty teed off about this being named in a far-right conspiracy theory, partly sourced from neo-Nazis, published in a national newspaper, The Sun, which is read by millions of people, whether we like it or not, every single day. So they said to Tom Newton Dunn, hey mate, what's this about this far-right conspiracy theory sourced from Nazis? And what he did is just block them and then just pretended it never happened, never explained, never apologised, absolutely nothing. Those he's blocked for just asking him, why did you do this? You're going to, no explanation? Also blocked for doing that. So what his newspaper did is just silently just took the article down as though it never happened. Again, no apologies, no explanations. Why am I bringing this up now? Let bygones be bygones. Don't be bitter about what happened in the past. I mean, who hasn't accidentally published a far-right conspiracy theory sourced from neo-Nazis in a national newspaper? We've all got our foibles. The reason I'm bringing this up is it tells us so much about the British media. A year later, there were no consequences for Tom Newton Dunn. His star still shines bright in the British media. He hosts his own radio show on Times Radio. His colleagues haven't spoken out. He's not a pariah. There's no disapproval of what he's done. He remains a respectable, esteemed journalist, having suffered no consequences whatsoever. A conspiracy of silence and a murder reigns in the British media, who all too often look after their own. Now consider this. 4.5 years ago, the Labour MP Joe Cox was killed by a far-right terrorist. There was another attempted far-right assassination of another Labour MP, Rosie Cooper. Another far-right terrorist, Darren Osborne, came to London seeking to kill Jeremy Corbyn and Sadiq Khan and ploughed his van into a group of Muslim worshippers. There have been numerous far-right terror plots that have been foiled, and last year Britain had the biggest number of far-right terror attacks and plots of any European nation. Now, personally, I've been on the receiving end myself of far-right harassment, whether it be being targeted in the streets, death threats, threats of violence, pretty much every day. And I've even been beaten up by a far-right extremist who's been sent to prison for a 2-year and 8-month sentence. This is beyond dangerous. The far-right are encouraged and legitimised by the British media. We already knew that, whether it be whipping up hatred against migrants, refugees and Muslims. They've demonised their opponents as traitors, as enemies of the people, as saboteurs who are there to be crushed. That Tom Newton Dunn gets away with this just tells us how much of the British media operates in this country. You know, we've got constant moral panics about Joe 89685 from Bradford being rude or abusive on Twitter. One Labour MP is calling for anonymous social media accounts to be shut down because of abuse. And yet, a senior journalist at a national newspaper can publish far-right conspiracy theories partly sourced from neo-Nazis. I do have to keep repeating this because it is pretty important. And no consequences, no outrage, no headlines, no demands for urgent action to be taken. And again, and I speak from experience, in the British media, senior media figures will look after their own. And they will often see readers of their articles not appreciating their opinions as this awful, nasty rabble, because back in the day before social media, they could say what they want and they wouldn't have to hear what people thought in response. And yet they can use their massive platforms to legitimise far-right conspiracy theories at a time when the far-right is on the rise and is demonstrably violent and worse. So let's say this to Tom Newton Dunn and the Sun newspaper. You can't simply walk away and pretend this didn't happen. You can't expect people to pretend it never happened. That might be how it works in much of the British media, but there are those who are determined not to let this one go. Because if we allow a situation where national newspapers can simply get away with printing, yes, far-right conspiracy theory sourced from neo-Nazis, then where on earth is this ever going to end? Now, if you want to help support us as we expand this channel to take on that right-wing media, then please subscribe, click on the notification bell to get notifications, and also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/OwenJones84, so that we can help expand this team and produce more documentaries, videos, and interviews that challenge this narrative. I will see you next time.